There are lots of urban legends in Jerusalem. This one might be the most important. It has to do with the Golden Gate and the fact that it is closed. Why is it closed? Tour guide will tell you it's to keep out the Messiah. Probably not the case. Both Christians, Jews, and Muslims believe that the world will end here. This is where the resurrection be, and the Messiah is going to come through. It's closed for practical reasons to limit access to the Temple Mount.
What if a mountain could tell us that time is running out? There is a place east of Jerusalem that 3 world religions watch with anticipation. Jews believe the resurrection will begin here. Christians believe Jesus will return to this exact spot. Muslims connected to the final judgment. For centuries, people have read ancient prophecies about this mountain splitting in 2. Most thought it was symbolic, but now engineers are measuring cracks forming across its slopes. Geologists are recording increased seismic activity, and the fractures are running in the exact direction the Bible predicted. Coincidence or something far greater? The Mount of Olives rises just east of Jerusalem's ancient walls. It is not the tallest mountain in the world, but it may be the most important. From its ridge, you can look down into the heart of the holy city, the Temple Mount, the Kidron Valley, the golden stones of the old city. This view has witnessed some of the most powerful moments in all of Scripture. King David once climbed this mountain barefoot, weeping as he fled from his own son Absalom. 2 Samuel chapter 15 records that heartbreaking journey. Centuries later, the prophet Ezekiel stood in vision and watched the glory of God rise from the temple and rest upon this very mountain, as if heaven itself was pausing here before departing. But it was Jesus who gave this mountain its greatest meaning. He walked these slopes many times. He wept here over Jerusalem. He taught his disciples about the end of the age in what we now call the Olivet Discourse. And it was from this mountain that he ascended into heaven. But what the angels said next is what makes everything happening today so remarkable. As the disciples stood watching Jesus rise into the clouds, 2 angels appeared beside them. Their words are recorded in Acts chapter 1, verse 11. "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking into heaven? This Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will come in the same way as you saw him go." The same way. Not similar, not symbolic, the same way. He left visibly, he will return visibly. He left bodily, he will return bodily. He ascended from the Mount of Olives, he will descend to the Mount of Olives. And the prophet Zechariah told us exactly what will happen when he does. On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in 2 from east to west, forming a great valley. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4, written over 500 years before Jesus was born. The mountain will split, east to west. Now here is what most people never consider. There is a gate directly facing this mountain, and it has been sealed shut for 500 years. On the eastern wall of Jerusalem's old city stands a gate like no other. It is called the Golden Gate. Some call it the Eastern Gate, and it faces directly toward the Mount of Olives. This gate is sealed. Massive stones block its entrance. It has been closed since the Ottoman Turks ruled Jerusalem in the 1500s. But why would anyone seal a gate? Ancient prophecy declared that the Messiah would enter Jerusalem through the Eastern Gate. The prophet Ezekiel recorded God's words about it. "This gate shall remain shut. It shall not be opened. No one shall enter by it, for the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it." Those who sealed the gate knew the prophecy, and they did something else. They placed a Muslim cemetery directly in front of it. According to Jewish law, a priest cannot walk through a graveyard. They believed this would stop the Messiah from entering. But they did not know what was hidden beneath their feet. A fault line running directly under the Golden Gate. The Dead Sea Transform Fault is one of the most active fault systems on Earth. It runs through the Jordan Rift Valley, beneath Jerusalem, and directly under the Mount of Olives. History proves this land shakes. A powerful earthquake struck in 31 BCE. Another in 363 CE damaged the Golden Gate itself. In 749 CE, the ground moved again, and in 1927, an earthquake cracked walls throughout Jerusalem. Geologists say another major quake is overdue. But something else is happening now. Engineers monitoring the Mount of Olives have recorded new cracks forming across its slopes. The mountain is made of soft limestone and chalk. Underground caves weaken its structure. Water erosion eats away at its foundation. And in 2023, when a massive earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, the tremors were felt in Jerusalem. Small quakes are occurring more frequently than historical records show. Scientists are watching, equipment is measuring, but none of their instruments can measure what is happening beneath the surface of prophecy itself. Something strange is happening at the Dead Sea. The lowest point on Earth is dropping even lower. The water level has fallen over 100 feet in recent decades. Sinkholes are opening along its shores, some large enough to swallow buildings. The prophet Zechariah connected these places in a way that seemed impossible. He said when the mountain splits, living waters will flow from Jerusalem, half toward the eastern sea, that's the Dead Sea, waters of life flowing to a sea of death. The prophet Joel adds another layer. He called the Kidron Valley between the Mount of Olives and Jerusalem the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the Valley of God's judgment, where nations will be gathered when the Lord returns. These are not isolated events. The mountain cracking, the Dead Sea changing, earthquakes increasing, the Golden Gate still sealed. Each piece fits into a larger picture, a picture painted by prophets thousands of years ago. And now, for the first time in history, we can see all these pieces moving at once. We cannot set dates. Jesus himself said no one knows the day or hour, but he also said something else. When you see these things begin to happen, lift up your heads. Your redemption draws near. These cracks in the Mount of Olives may be natural. The earthquakes may be geological. The Dead Sea changes may be environmental. But together they form a pattern written in Scripture long ago. Whether his return is tomorrow or years away, the message remains the same. Be ready, not with fear, but with hope. The same mountain that is cracking today is the mountain where Jesus promised he would return. The earth itself seems to be preparing. But there is one detail almost no one mentions. When Zechariah described the mountain splitting, he said people would flee through the valley it creates. Flee from what? The answer is hidden in a manuscript discovered near the Dead Sea, a text that describes something so specific about the Mount of Olives that religious authorities have barely discussed it publicly. And when you understand what ancient scribes wrote about that mountain 2,000 years ago, everything happening today takes on an entirely different meaning.